Is this the same case at your church?
Yeah, it's a very large church, and we have visiting people, pastors, students, everything come to the campus, and they want everything digital. They want everything from the videos for the sermons digital. They want the downloads for the outlines. They want Bibles on their phones now. Everything's digital for them. So we have people that we're telling to open up their phones in a church service and go look at scripture or take notes on, and it's awesome. They can text questions in service to the pastors to answer in real time behind stage. So
Hold it. So explain how they're doing that. How are you texting questions? Is it like via Twitter or something like that?
we don't use Twitter for that. We use Twitter for feedback and the Twitter API, but we actually built our own solution with a third-party vendor. We integrated with their API, so we text questions. We have to moderate them, of course, because
channel during
Yeah.
a sermon. How extraordinary is that? That's what we do in seminars and classes.
Yeah.
You want a back channel so that there is a conversation real time going on as the event is going on, which then you mine some of that to enrich the event and tailor it to the audience that you have. I mean, it's
So you don't find that too distracting to have everybody, messaging on their devices?
we may, but they don't.
Right, that's exactly the point they made last time at the last CIO Summit. They had an example of the millennial generation, and they had two people talking at a table, and one was a millennial and one was a much older gentleman. And the example they gave was they were talking about just shooting the breeze. And then all of a sudden the guy gets a text in, the millennial guy gets a text in, and he stops his conversation and starts texting like this and says, "I'm sorry, what were you saying now?" And they go back to just chatting. The non-millennial guy thought that was very rude. And how could you interrupt our conversation with that? The millennial generation guy says, "But my girlfriend's dad just passed away, and it was more important for me, regardless of the vehicle, the mechanism, to talk to her about that immediately." So the example they give to the non-millennial guy, like me, is if his girlfriend would have walked up to the table, you not only would have stopped your conversation and introduced her and had her sit down and join your conversation and not thought that rude, but you would have said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, your dad passed away," and your whole conversation would have turned to that. So why do you think it's rude when they do it on a digital device? It's a fantastic way to see the two generations. So when people get in church and they're looking up a Bible verse on their phone, what's the difference between that and opening up a real Bible and looking down at it or doodling on your program?
Or sending your friend a little note that says, "Hey, you know that scripture they just read? That's exactly what's making me think I ought to do this."
Yeah, you want that. We want to promote that. Now, some of the older pastors go, "Why does everybody have their phones out? Or why is there iPads in the?" But we went down to a church in Australia, Hillsong, and it's a very young church, very big young church. I'd say 33% of the audience had their iPads out during service. And they're all chatting back and forth, updating their Facebooks with the stuff, looking at the video live on the screen with other stuff.
Right?
Oh, it's fantastic. So what you want to do again?
So, okay, well, that does sound cool, but here's the obvious question is, how do you know they're all staying on target on discussion?
You don't. Just like you don't know in a classroom if you're talking about your girlfriend's, what you're going to do with your girlfriend Friday night, or if you're talking about what the professor's talking about. You don't. You're just adding another vehicle, another way that's comfortable for them to engage. Now, they might be engaging with their boyfriend at home about what they're going to eat for dinner that night. You don't know.
So, also, I should point out that passing notes in class is now perfectly acceptable.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask him about. You got an iPad in class. You take a picture of your test. They actually have this problem with high schools. My kids are in high school. They make everybody check their phone in at days of tests because people were taking photos of the test and then sending it to somebody else that hadn't taken the test yet, and then they were studying and coming in the next class. And how easy is it to take a photo and send a photo now? I mean, it's a piece of cake. So they were making them actually check their phones and things like that. Back in my day, it was your graphical calculator that you couldn't put your formulas into. You have to wipe them before the test, but now it's much more sophisticated.